How's it going, guys? So for today's video, we got a nice wallet build video. It's going to be a little bit different than my other videos that I've done, mostly because I am going to be doing a voiceover for the entire thing. When I was recording this video and the next video that's going to be coming out, I did not have much of a voice. I still don't have that great of a voice, but it's starting to come back enough where I can at least get this video ready to go and out to you guys. So I really appreciate you guys checking it out. So first thing we're doing here, just going to go ahead and use our stencil for our wallet. This is a wallet that I will be getting out and selling here shortly. So I have a stencil made for it. It's something that I make several of. So that's why there's not a lot of figuring out in this process for this video. So we're just going to go ahead and get that laid out and cut out. And you can see that I'm using an awl to scratch in or leave an impression of the edge of the template there. I'm doing that because these wallets are going to be getting finished with just an oil finish and top coat of tan coat. And so any kind of pencil, anything like that, has a high chance of leaving a graphite on the leather, and you want to try to keep it as clean as possible. There's it's always a struggle when you're working with something that's going to have a really light finish on it. Rawhide or veg tan really likes to take on any kind of dirt, smudges, anything like that you have. So I'm just doing the holes here, getting those pounded in. Got those die cutters or whatever you want to call them, round chisels for cutting those out and getting those consistent. And now I'm just knocking off the corners where the round part meets the flat part, just because it'll make it a little bit easier for burnishing. It'll also wear better and won't take as much roughing up there when you're putting cards in and pulling them out. So just doing a little final inspection, make sure that it didn't get dirty along the way. Now we're going to spray down in the seams where we're going to be bending it. I like to do this step because it makes it a lot easier for gluing up and stitching if you get it wet. And put something heavy on top of it for, 15, 20 minutes even is good. I'm using that bag there just to prevent the wood grain in the plywood from putting any kind of impression into the wood. If you don't have some kind of buffer there, you will get that with wet leather. It's very, likely to take on whatever bumps into it. So you got to be careful with it when it's wet. Now we're just going to go ahead and line up our maker's mark here, get those things ready to go. I got two wallets here. You only saw me cut one, but you don't need to see me cut two wallets. It's pretty much the exact same process both times. So just go ahead and on this, I ended up doing you can see here I'm heating up my old touch mark or maker's mark, whatever you want to call it, that I had, or brand. That I used to use. It was one that I made myself back in the day. That was a little bit too hot there. This one's a little bit better. But so I am using that. I pretty much only did that because I made a short out of it. Figured I had to, get some kind of content in between the videos. So that's what I did with that. Normally I don't do that on my wallets, but those two are going to get a brand that's going to be hidden inside the cash fold, so it's not that big of a deal. So now we're just moving along here to beveling, and we're just knocking off the edges on both the inside and the outside for every angle or every side, except for on the innermost side, the side on this wallet particularly that has the cash or the little protuberance, the peninsula there of leather, you could call it. I am not putting, that's minx foot oil that I'm using here. I am not putting that down where the glue line is going to be. If you put that down where the glue line is going to be, it's not going to stick. And so you got to be aware of that when you're putting it down. I end up doing several coats of this here. There was a couple places that it did not necessarily want to sink in very evenly, so I had to go ahead and put a little bit more of that. And you don't want to saturate it too much because then it could bleed out over the course of the wallet, but you want to get it pretty good where you get a nice rich color in even fashion. So doing the inside too there. If it's something that's going to be in your pocket for, even in the summertime when you're sweating stuff, you want to have good weather protection, water protection, whatever you want to call it. So just going ahead, doing that again there. And you can use other kinds of oil on this. I like minx foot oil or neat's foot oil, excuse me. And now we're just going to move along using a dauber here to apply burnishing gum to the edges. And, there are better ways of doing this to get a nice even application on the edge. But the dauber is an okay method. And I see some guys use, I use little scraps of leather. Some guys use little scrapers or pieces of wood to apply it. really any way you can get it onto the edges in a manner that does not get it all over the face of the leather is fine. You definitely do not want to burnish the edges prior to applying the oil though, because the burnishing gum will inhibit the absorption of the oil. All right, so and then you could also see I was using my what is it called, burnishing tool, or a slicker as some people call it also, to hit those edges after the burnishing gum sets a little bit. There's a lot of different ways you can do burnishing, but this is the method that I use. I just apply that, give it a good once over all around, and it usually seems to do a good enough job. You can do a water coat before you do the burnishing gum just to get all the little feathered edges of the leather, little whiskers that stick up on the edge of a raw edge to slick down before you apply the burnishing gum. So just doing another little coat here, again, just trying to get a nice even coat all the way around. One of these wallets, I think it was this one, maybe it was the other one. Yeah, I think it was the one without the strap on the top that was having a harder time taking the oil in an even fashion. So just applying some rubber cement here, rubber cement, not contact cement. Contact cement's better. I don't have any of them out at the moment, so I was using rubber cement. It's just a little bit more gummy, and you got to be careful of it being close to the edge because it can leave little boogers of rubber, for lack of a better term. So I'm just using another little scrap of leather here with the smooth side in. Again, you want to use the smooth side in. Otherwise, the roughness of the leather on the rough side can leave an impression if you're using that to clamp up. The reason I'm using that to clamp up is because it, applies a nice amount of pressure right where I need it. So here I am getting my stitch line going. On this particular, I offer two different styles of stitching on the edge. It's just a regular saddle stitch for one, and then I do this for the other option. It's just, I don't know what to call it. I don't have a name for it, but I think it's a little bit different, a little bit unique, and, just something to do that's a little bit less than standard. And for this, I used a stitching method where you go into the leather in between the seams of leather. I don't know if I showed it good. If I do show it good, I'll go back and I'll try to show it to you now. Sorry for the hard jump cut to 1 speed, but just going to show you here as best as I can how I work the needle in between the 2 layers or 3 layers of leather and up through one of those holes. And what that does is it hides the end of the knotted end there. You do want to tie a knot on the end. The knotted end in between the layers so that you don't have to burn one of the ends. I do end up burning the opposite, or like the end of the stitching for it. But that's just because I don't want to have to deal with getting up in there and cutting it at the end. And I feel like it gives me a better seal at the end also. So back to high speed here. And we're just going to finish up stitching the rest of this one out. And again, it's in a 2, I don't know if I said it before, but I do that with a 2-hole and then a 4-hole and then a 2-hole system. And I run it where there is a string between each hole and over top of the edge of the leather like that. And with this stitching method, I do understand that it will have a higher likelihood of, I don't want to say tattering the stitch, but the stitch will experience more wear being outside of the leather like that. For the leather wallets that I sell, if that ever becomes an issue, I will repair any stitching like that at no cost, just in case anybody is watching this saying, oh, you're leaving the string out there where it's going to get rubbed on constantly and broke. I haven't found it to be an issue at all, but I do warranty that. So now we're just using some button snaps on that. This one with the button snaps is the one that I use more so with like front pocket carry. And then I offer the one without the strap over the top for back pocket carry. Obviously you can do whatever you want, but I found that my experience with people is they don't want to sit on the button, so that's totally fine. This one I'm just doing a standard saddle stitch. You saw before that I was grooving out the stitch line. I am starting it the same way though. I'm putting the needle in between the layers of leather that are started, and then just running it up one side and then down the other. Getting to the end, turning around and coming back, weaving in the opposite direction, and then that'll give you a good stitch on both ends. That's only because it's easier to film on camera here with me doing it with that method opposed to using 2 needles in a standard saddle stitch method. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and work on the tan coat, and for that I just have a dedicated old dish rag that I use for applying that. And I give a nice liberal coating of it. It's like a lacquer finish almost. I've heard somebody refer to it as an epoxy before. I don't know if it's an epoxy, but it does have like a when it's drying, it's kind of sticky, but the final finish is smooth and glossy and gives a nice added protection for the leather. Especially if it's going to be sitting in your pocket, you're going to want that. And that can go over the entire thing, stitches and all that kind of stuff. It's just going to protect everything that it touches pretty much. You don't want it to be heavily gooped on the metal snaps at all, but for everything else, that's going to be fine. And we have both of them finished here. I did the other one off camera. You guys, it's the exact same process, so I spared you the hassle of having to see that. But you can guys see I'm just using my finger on the inside there just to show them to you. They're still a little bit tacky, but I figured I'd let you see what they looked like there. All right, so here they are in the bright light of day. The one on the left there is one that I'm actually using as my personal wallet right now. I just like to test each iteration of the wallet to make sure that it's good to go for you guys. So these will be going up here at some point online for sale. I'll let you guys know if you're interested when that happens. And here is an example of the dark brown version of the wallet. This one doesn't have the strap, but they obviously are going to come in both options, one with the strap and one without the strap. And I thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. It helps the channel out so much. And thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.